Alright, Diablo players, let's talk about the brand new mid-season update that is coming out. They actually dropped a campfire chat. It was about an hour long, plus on a live stream, but I'm going to go ahead and sum it up for you guys in a short video. So starting right off, let's go over some number stats they actually showed off, starting off with the new rogue buffs. So we're getting a small amount of damage increases. By the way, don't expect any of the classes to be on the same level of SpiritBorn, but yeah, just a small little bit amount of damage to some of the core skills, pen shot, flurry buff, key passives. You're getting victimized buff, precision buff. Victimized was already nerfed by its times that I can proc, so it's not as good as it used to be. And then on sorceress, this actually may be something that is actually going to be pretty big, because combustion now will deal additional 25% of your damage to burning enemies. So if you start stacking this, you could actually look at some pretty big numbers, because, well, you can get a lot more off of this number. I'm not sure what the actual stat was that they showed off here, but again, it's 25% of your damage to burning enemies, and that is an X multiplier. So it's going to be a pretty big buff to incinerate sorcs. Then also with the aspect of piercing cold, which is basically for ice shards on the sorc, you're going to be able to get some more numerical damage changes. You do lose out on the amount of piercing though. It's almost cut in half, but it doesn't matter. 10 times is actually pretty good already. I don't know why they decided to nerf this number, but instead of it lowering your damage, you're actually getting an increase in damage, so that's going to be overall kind of cool. And then also for the sorc, you're going to see over here, if I make this a little bit bigger, you're going to see that the new legendary aspects in Vessel of Hatred now scale based off of charge bolts and incinerate damage. It used to be some sort of flat number, but it scales off of a different number, so that's going to be a little bit better for that. And then also legendary aspects over here showing off of overwhelming. Used to, after dealing damage for incinerate, it deals some sort of amount of damage, but now you have a multiplier. So again, I know it might be kind of hard to see. It's a really small picture here, but basically more incinerate damage. And there's already the key passive bonus, which can actually be pretty good. Now, surprisingly, SpiritBorn is getting buffed, guys, which I think it's good. I don't want any class to ever really get nerfed in this game unless it breaks the game. So SpiritBorn is getting some buffs and no nerfs, actually, guys. So SpiritBorn, what are the buffs? Razor Wings is going to have its damage increased by 50%, basically. Well, it's a 25% increase, but off of the number change in terms of what it's getting changed to, from 50 to 75%, and it no longer has a short cooldown. So we may be able to try to make a Razor Wing build, which is kind of cool. And then there's also Withering Fist, which I had to look up what that was, because I'm like, dude, what is that skill? Is this a new skill? No, it's a basic skill that no one uses. So going from 30% damage to 36, does that mean it's time to lock in and play this? Probably not, to be honest. I would say this is like a whatever buff, but hey, Razor Wings might actually be kind of cool to try out, because you can mess around with a lot of stuff with SpiritBorn because the class is so OP. Now, as far as Toxic Skin's passive getting increased by 6%, another 20%, and then the measured Toxic Skin getting its damage increased, will this really matter? I don't know, but sometimes when you get a skill that does 0 damage and you multiply it times 6, 0.6, is that going to make people want to use it? Probably not, but who knows. Again, with SpiritBorn, the class is so OP, we'll see. And interesting enough, they actually said that 62% of all players have played the SpiritBorn. I don't know if that means that's how many players are playing the SpiritBorn, but nonetheless, this is actually pretty big. And if you guys are wondering why do content creators only cover SpiritBorn, well, it's not just because we want the views, because SpiritBorn is going to be the most played class. It's because the game actually takes quite a long time to reach the far end game, and to get all of your glyphs maxed out, it just takes a long time, and this is going to be something that we'll talk a little bit about in a moment. But yeah, SpiritBorn is definitely the most popular class by a long shot, and they said by comparison, and I thought this was a good little stat over here, because someone made a pretty good Reddit post about all these screenshots, and I'll show you guys some other screenshots from the campfire, but the last most played class was 32%, so it's double of the most played class in the game, which is absolutely insane for the amount of players playing. And then on top of that, they wanted to talk a little bit about the state of the game, and then they're saying that SpiritBorn is OP. Yeah, I couldn't tell you that either, but they're talking about some balance issues. Basically, they're saying Season 7 is going to get Omega nerfed, but this is actually pretty key here for the state of the game. So they want players to feel strong and powerful, and they want players to feel like they can break the game. And then they also want parity in regards to power level, so they want more classes to be available. And they kind of mentioned that in the game's launch, they wanted the classes to be somewhat balanced. But then in Season 2, like, Ball Lightning was just so incredibly godly, and they're like, you know what, let's just let the players have fun. And I think that that is a much better approach. They even were talking about, like, how they felt like they were the fun police, so they don't want to do that. They want to let you have fun. And it was kind of like a whack-a-mole. This was the OP build of the season, okay, then it gets nerfed. But the problem is that you consistently do this, and I think that it's much better, instead of trying to fix the bugs with the skill, just let the skill be OP and rechange the wording of the skill to match whatever it's doing. Because when I had a lot of fun with the game, it was Ball Lightning, it was the Hoda Barb that was deleting things, it was the Charged Barbarian. A lot of these things just got so nerfed to the point where, like, I just don't want to play these anymore. And I think that they need to really look at that. And instead of next season, Season 7 coming around, and the SpiritBorn, the Quill build is like so bad that it's like, okay, well, I don't even want to play this, I want to play a different class. That's the kind of feeling that I think that will leave a bad taste in players' mouth. So I think that they really need to look at this as well. And then they were talking about the state of the game, and they're going to be fixing the unintended bugs. So my real question here for these patch notes from the campfire is that, like, how can I, as a player that played the SpiritBorn, get excited about Season 7, because they were talking about the next PTR? I don't really want to play the SpiritBorn if I'm 1,000 times weaker than my previous season. So they are buffing the other classes in the mid-season patch, but not enough to account for the power unintended with the SpiritBorn. So then you still have classes that might not be able to perform even on the same level of being able to max out their glyphs. And I think that's kind of a big problem when you don't have the ability to even max out your character in terms of leveling up the glyphs, where SpiritBorn is just breezing through all the content. They really need to look at that. But here's some other buffs coming out over here. We can see Barbarian with the upheaval. We get some damage number increases for upheaval, Hammer of the Ancients, Double Swing, and Ren. But the fan favorite, Whirlwind. Do I still have to play Dust Devils, or why can't I have Whirlwind actually deal the damage? I think a lot of players that have played the Barbarian, the iconic skill is Whirlwind, right? So I'm really hoping to see that actually get buffed. Out of all the skills, just buff regular Whirlwind, not Dust Devils. But I think a lot of people want to play that. You buffed Gore's Devastating Grips, I don't know how many times at this point, and no one plays it still. So really look at that. I think that that'd be a good suggestion over here as a Diablo partner. I really wanted to suggest that. And then also there's some numerical number changes over here on the Barbarian. You can see the Battle Mad aspect. It used to give you Berserking. Let's see if you guys can read that. But yeah, it used to give you Berserking after you swapped weapons, but now you are able to gain a X damage multiplier. They also changed the Berserking for 1 second less duration. I don't even know why they changed that, but whatever. You're getting a pretty big damage increase if you do want to try to do some like weapon swapping. And then with Druid, they actually buffs to the key passives. These are the two ones that they showed off, which is Lupin Ferocity, which no one ran. And I want to also stress to Blizzard, bonus damage to injured is almost worthless unless it's a boss. This is a big problem in the game. Damage to healthy is totally fine in action RPGs, but damage to injured doesn't really help, because most of the time you're 1 to 2 shotting things so fast anyways that this bonus damage to injured isn't really being accounted for, and they need to actually look at that in general. That's why in general with action RPGs, people don't like damage versus like low HP targets. They want damage versus healthy because it's gonna let you one-shot, right? That's the big reason why no one plays this, and no one plays also the Druid Wolf Ultimate, because it's just simply the animation is too long and the damage just simply isn't there. But anyways, one with nature, the companion bonus damage got increased by 20% because I guess these are kind of underutilized. And then they also decided to buff the Basilisk, which is kind of a cool item. They gave basically 50% more of the damage, and how it would work is when you hit a healthy enemy with an earth skill, you would petrify them, and then it would just be bad on bosses because it would only be when you first hit an enemy, not when you hit a healthy enemy. But then it has like once every 5 seconds on bosses or like elites, against bosses over here. So that'll be getting a little bit of a buff, but I don't know if people are going to be wanting to use that, considering again you lose this two-handed aspect. We'll see though. I think it's cool to see some of the uniques that don't see that much play, to see a little bit more play. I'm talking about like the Crone Staff, maybe the Scoundrel's Leather for the Rogue. I really want to see some more buffs to the uniques that really don't see any play in the game. But then also we have, over here we have the Storm Chasers aspect. This is for the Tornado Wolf Druid, which was super popular in Season 0, where the Tornado would follow the enemies. Not only does it do that, but we have a 50x multiplier on that when you get the max rank. By the way, getting max rank is still kind of a problem with aspects, and it's funny that they showed them off. For Necromancer, you guys ready for the huge number increase? All right, so evolution, we go from 5x damage to 6x. Now, I know for a lot of people, you're looking at like 1%, how am I supposed to get excited? Now, it did change. So it's your bone skills deal 5x increased critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. Now it's just 6x increased damage to enemies. So there is kind of like an easier source of applying that bonus damage. But it is really hard for players to get excited about a 1% multiplier. I'm going to be straight up. So I think that they could have looked at this and kind of made it more exciting by changing something else with the Necromancer. But nonetheless, yeah, when they're showing this off, people, again, you guys have to understand that, like, when you increase the number of something by like a small amount and you have all these numbers, it actually does add up. But I totally get it from the viewpoint of like, dude, huge Necromancer buff 1x, let's lock in. So I get, like, you know, how some people kind of feel that it doesn't seem exciting. Now there's a lot of other posts over here, and I'm going to be using Reddit and some extra screenshots. But the thing that this person highlighted, which was really great in this little like post over here. So SpiritBorn is not getting nerfed. Other classes getting some slight buffs. They aren't revealing the full patch notes, which is kind of weird because you'd figure with the campfire chat, they would talk a little bit about it on the live stream, and then they would go ahead and drop the patch notes. Then content creators like myself would give you guys like the too long didn't read version of it. But on top of that, there is changes regarding ancestral items potentially soon. They didn't say like specifically, okay guys, we're going to give you guys really good drops for the ancestrals, because the aspects I have mentioned time and time again, it is a pain point for sure. And then there is no comment on the armory as far as like it's coming out next season. It's just like, stay tuned guys. They need to say, hey guys, it's coming out next season. There's no more like, hey guys, we hear you. You've had enough time. We're going into season 7 and we're still missing a thing that is already in the previous Diablo game. When I look at a sequel of a game, it should take everything that people liked and enjoyed in the previous game and then also add it to the sequel. I don't know why it's taking so long for the armory system. Do they just need to hire someone else that can actually make it? It's gotten to the point where I'm like, who's in charge of this? Do we need to hire someone else to make an armory? It should be like, we hear you guys, we want an armory, it's coming out next season, be ready. That's what I need to hear, not, okay, stay tuned. You've been saying this for several seasons, and there comes to a point, again, where it just needs to come out. Anyways, other things that they mentioned that I'm going to go and share as like other screenshots here. Again, they're not nerfing SpiritBorn. This is very important, and I'm curious to know how you guys feel about it. Do you guys think that they should nerf things mid-season? My viewpoint is just to buff up all the other classes. I know they say that if they buff up all the classes and then something else comes out that's OP, they got to keep on doing these buffs. The thing is that if you want the players to get excited about a newer season, you have to let the players feel more powerful. That's why power creep exists. If power creep doesn't exist in an action RPG, why would I want to start out from level 1 and enjoy your new seasonal mechanic? Because the seasonal mechanic does not give us any power, and it's crazy that it gives us 0 power, because all we are getting is opals, and opals give us XP and some extra small little drops. It's not that big and exciting for a seasonal theme. Although this season I'm more lenient, and most people probably understand that the expansion just came out, and that's why a lot of people you know, are kind of okay with the seasonal theme being almost non-existent, because it's basically a worthless piece of content, in my personal opinion, but you guys can let me know how you feel about it. Other things over here that they mentioned, again, they're not nerfing the SpiritBorn, but this is one thing I think that is important, okay? I believe it was Colin here, he's saying that it's all about respecting your time. Please, respect the player's time by not making it so these aspects feel legitimately impossible to actually achieve. On top of that, going in and trying to fight the boss like Duriel, or if you're trying to get the mythic drop, trying to get those sparks, respecting the player's time to do these hundreds, and I mean hundreds of times, and getting 0 results, that is not respecting the player's time. I liked it before where we could throw in 5 times the materials to get more results. Can we do that? Because going in and one-shotting the boss and waiting for it to like do this little animation to come out, he shoots out the things, maybe Duriel burrows itself, it's just like, come on, just make the boss like have like a very difficult version of it, but then I get to get more rewards, like just a much higher drop chance. I've seen this post over on Reddit as well, talking about how the game doesn't respect the player's time. And I mentioned this in Season 0 where I was talking about Diablo 4 doesn't really respect the player's time as much as other action RPGs, and it doesn't feel like you are progressing as much as you should, especially towards the endgame. Endgame is really lacking in this game, especially when you're trying to farm a very specific thing. It just feels like you're fighting against the void. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you just keep on grinding for very, very little results, or in my situation, there's a lot of times where I'm doing a stream for like 10 hours, 0 upgrades, and that feels really bad, and it does not respect the player's time. So since they mentioned it, yeah. Other things that I wanted to mention that weren't in like that post that I showed off earlier on, which was a buff to the cold source. Well, it's mainly for the avalanche passive over here, where your frost skills have a chance to do some damage, and then it costs no mana, but the damage gets increased by your X damage against vulnerable enemies, which is a great stat to go ahead and have anyways. So this is going to be kind of cool if you have like a pretty much everyone's been using like the freeze variant of it, the shatter, right? But Avalanche may see some play. Who knows if this is going to be something that players may potentially want to use. But what I think is really cool with the SpiritBorn in general is where like your skills count as other skills, right? You can have them count as Gorilla. I think it'd be really cool to open up the doors for like your skills to count as Frost skills. That would be really awesome. So hopefully we can see that in the future as well. They are also buffing some of the Runewords that are seeing a little bit less play. Here are some of the ones they showed off. I think that we have a lot more work to do though than just these ones in particular, where we have like you can cast a skill after moving. This one gets increased by a little bit, and then we have Ahu getting increased where it's like you can gain 25 offering from a lucky hit, and then also the wolf spirits now are unhindered. Like I made a complaint in a video on this already. I tried to make a Necromancer that was all about minions, but then I also threw in the wolf spirits, which I guess don't count in the multipliers for the minion stuff, which is kind of unfortunate. No one's looking at this and thinking, yeah, dude, I can't wait to make my wolf spirit build for endgame. Like, the point of the runes is to play on other classes. I don't know why it doesn't work on the Necromancer, but for early leveling, like things like the Earthquake Barbarian rune, those are actually really good, and even the wolf spirits, they're great for like the really low level, but I think a lot of these buffs need to be tested for endgame, because remember, we spend, I don't know, 10, 20 hours in the early game, but a lot of players spend hundreds of hours at the end game. So you really need to focus on your end game content. But this is still, at least they're buffing some of the stuff that doesn't see some play. But will this make people go end game? Oh, I can't wait to play Wolves? Hell no. All right, moving on to the Shrine updates, which is something I've complained about. Yeah, it's specifically like Artillery, Blast Wave, whatever. Like those kind of work, right? But the Conduit in particular really needs to work a little bit better, or just let us use our skills and also get the Conduit. Like that'd be a little bit better because it just tickles the enemies. So hopefully the Conduit Shrines will actually be good. But this is actually going to be another buff for one of the Mythics, which is actually something I'm kind of curious about, and if this is good. So if you guys have the spear, that the Mythic spear, maybe hold on to it. Don't salvage it yet, because before I was saying this item's garbage, guys, just salvage it. You may want to hold on to it if you happen to get one, because they are buffing it. Obviously, it should work when they buff the shrines, because it gives you the shrines, but I don't know how it's going to register in the game. But yeah, the shrines should be getting better. It's specifically the Conduit Shrine that was like so bad over here. And there is going to be some new events coming out. They are returning the Red Cloak, which was in, I believe, like the Midwinter Blight. Basically, it was like the Christmas or Xmas, so winter event thing, where they had this enemy that you can kill. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you could check out on a YouTube short. I literally one-shot the thing so fast, it doesn't even matter. They do have alternate monsters in this area where they had like this winter event. Like they would shoot, like, it was like the succubuses would throw like a snowball out, but like, again, most of the stuff you won't even realize because you're just one-shotting everything, because the open world content is memes at this point, as long as your character is actually strong. They're also doing another Mother's Blessing event, which is just more XP, so hopefully we can get our Paragons up a little bit faster. And then they're doing a welcome back booster, so now you are going to get a free level 50 character. In fact, if you own the expansion, you can get 2 level 50 characters for free, and they're going to give you a bunch of gear and stuff for free to get people to come back into the game. Honestly, looking at the stat numbers, and I'm going to bring this up in a separate video, but I would, as far as I'm aware of it, it's about 90% of the retention rate from the start of the launch of the new expansion. Players have just left the game, so they want people to come back. I don't know if they need players to come back because they weren't hitting level 50. I don't know if that, they probably have the metrics, and they're like, dude, people are just quitting too early on. They're not even getting max level. So if maybe that's the case, hey, that's going to be cool. And they also mentioned, yeah, there's going to be a booster. We're going to give you a free level 50, and there's 3 different like gear sets that you can pick from, and they're all 100% free. And what I thought was even crazier with this announcement, to get people to come back, like they want people to come back into the game, they give you all the altars unlocked. Like that is a very annoying thing to do. For those of us that have done the altars, I feel kind of bad, because now it's like the person just gets all the altars for free. You got multiple max, well, it's close to max. It's 60 is technically max level, but you get free level 50 characters and unlocking all the altars. They're really trying to gear us towards the end game, but the problem is the end game really needs to be revamped, and I hope that they can do that in the future. And they mentioned this as well, and this is really good, where they're saying a lot of people are struggling to max out their aspects. Yes, of course we're struggling to max out the aspects, because you can only get the max rolled aspects on an ancestral drop, which still rolls RNG from like the baseline to the top number. Whereas on the end of the spectrum, you should have all of the higher rolls roll on the ancestrals, not, oh, it can still roll from 1 to 50 on the ancestral. That's the big issue. On top of it, ancestral drop rate is much lower, and then you have to engage in trade. There's a lot of mountains of issues to go ahead and go over, but those are the most important ones, and they will be updating us very soon later this week with another patch note in the forums, and then there's also going to be another live stream next week, which I'll give you guys a too long didn't watch version of it. So to summarize it, basically all of the classes will be getting a buff, and SpiritBorn is getting no nerfs, which is kind of a surprise, but I still respect them for not nerfing SpiritBorn, because if you nerf things, people are just going to feel like, well, I just wasted my time leveling up this character. So anyways, you guys let me know how you feel about anything that we talked about down below, but I still think that Diablo 4 really needs another massive rework on a lot of the stuff, specifically getting the aspects, getting the greater affixes. That is a big pain point, and I want more variety than just slamming down the pit again and again. I think that we can have a little bit more variety in the end game. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe from the bell so you don't miss out when we cover the other patch notes and updates, and I'll let you guys know what's good. Anyways, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.